Hi! Welcome to this part of my review featuring the Wicked Ones role-playing game. In this role-playing game, the player characters play as the orcs, the gnolls, the kobolds, and as we will see in this part of the review, even more bizarre, more powerful things. If you haven't seen the other parts of this review, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to talk about the Delve Deeper section, which contains a lot of optional things that you can use in your campaigns. And I will give you my final thoughts on this role-playing game. First, let's start with the Primal Monsters. The monsters you play in Wicked Ones tend to be very similar in many ways to humans. They all have 2 arms, 2 legs, and 1 head. They use gear and equipment and don't have many natural abilities. Stepping away from that simple archetype, you can also build monsters using primal ability, or reframing some of the calling abilities to match up with what a monster might do, such as modeling a troll's regeneration or a harpy's luring song. The most complex monsters, however, require larger changes to fully capture. They can't be imagined with a combination of primal ability and a reskinning of other calling abilities. These are primal monsters, and in place of a calling's core ability and starting calling ability, they gain several fundamental mechanical changes and unique abilities. Every player must agree to allow a primal monster in play, and primal monsters are recommended for experienced players. Primal monsters can be a bit disruptive to the normal flow of campaigns. So let's take a brief look at how the 4 primal monsters in this core rulebook tend to alter campaigns in ways that normal callings don't. So, brain eaters require living meals. Capturing prisoners and saving them for later becomes a priority. They are also very weak when they can't feast. Doom seekers tend to stay within the dungeon, sending out their proxy minions in their place. They are also incredibly paranoid, which has a tendency to bring them into conflict with other player characters. Goldmongers can't spend gold and don't work on downtime like other player characters. They will strongly urge the dungeon tier to grow rapidly, but it's likely that dungeon defenses will lag behind. Face stealers are often working on their own, having small scenes while other players wait. Making sure everyone gets enough screen time can be difficult. So, before beginning any campaign with a primal monster in it, you talk it through with everyone and make sure all players know the effects it can have on gameplay. If you get everyone on board, the unique mechanics can give a fresh, new dynamic to the game. Now, let's take a look at each of these monster species separately. First, we have the Brain Eater, the voracious psionic masters. So these are kinda like mind flayers. The delicious energy hidden within the brains of intelligent creatures calls to you. You crave it, engaging in a never-ending search for your next harvest. This endless hunger may even force you to join forces with those you might otherwise consider food. You have some traits such as psionic disciplines. You also have psionic masteries, psionic dependency, advancement of course, and feasting. You no longer clear all stress automatically each recovery. Instead, you feast on brains and handle your stress and hunger. This is possible to do during any scene. This requires a living victim that is subdued or restrained, and you're very vulnerable while you take the time to feast. So this is the monstrous species for you if you want to dominate others, to employ telekinesis, use telepathy, and similar abilities. Then we have the Doom Seeker, paranoid aberrations. So these are kinda like beholders. You're an ancient guardian of a long-lost dungeon, finally freed from the pact that kept you bound to it. A creature of caution, you know you need to surround yourself with allies as a buffer against destruction. You have traits such as eye race, bizarre body, paranoia, meticulous. You are an overseer, and you have ultimate flexibility. So you have a number of flexibility slots to use when you gain an ability from experience points. The following abilities are recommended. For example, Conniver, Crafter, Marauder, Shadow. You also have Eye Rays. Your eyes have magical rays that act as a very narrow magical path. You can cast tier 1 spells with them, and can also spend stress to cast a tier 2 spell, taking a -1 die to the roll as normal. However, you can't cast tier 3 spells, so you're going to be using things such as Death Ray, Paralysis Ray, Time Ray, Telekinesis Ray, etc. You have 9 eyes, each with an action rating. At character creation, you assign each eye a specific ray that it casts. When you cast spells, you roll that eye's rating in place of Invoke. Your large main central eye is 3 dice. Your outer eye stalks are 2 dice, and the other body eyes are 1 die. Your eye rays can be used to make resistance rolls and are affected by shock to guts. Then we have the Face Stealer, Devious Impersonators. These are kinda like doppelgangers. You're a creature of deceit and exploitation, taking on the forms of those you lay eyes on, and slipping deep within civilized lands. However, your powers are reviled, and you are hunted, so it may be best to find a safe place to rest your head. You have traits such as shapeshifting, faces, voices, grafting, mindspeak. You have abilities such as dramatic reveal, embodiment, grotesque mutations, and thought thief. Then we have the goldmonger. These are greedy tyrants, such as dragons. You're driven by your lust for gold. It's your obsession as well as fueling your growth. You start as a small whelp, growing alongside your horde, eventually becoming a terror. But before then, you need some allies to help build your horde. You have various traits, such as for example, your type. Maybe you are a fire goldmonger, or an earth goldmonger, or a sonic goldmonger. So it's what you would expect from dragons in fantasy role-playing games. And you start either as an egg, ready to hatch, or a recently hatched whelp. But as you grow in power, your abilities and potential to cause destruction and take over the land grows to astonishing proportions. Effectively, you will have different growth paths that will affect your breath weapon, your ferocity, your flight, your hide, your lair, etc. Then we have a dungeon generator. This is going to be useful for any fantasy role-playing game, but of course, this is a particularly handy thing to have in the Wicked Ones role-playing game. You may at some point find yourself in need of a dungeon real fast, such as for a one-shot. Having your player characters invade a neighboring dungeon, this generator helps you make one. So you will be able to determine the dungeon theme, the traits of your imps, the floors, the walls, the smells, the different rooms divided by tiers, the different minion impulses, upgrades, races, jobs, the creatures that inhabit your dungeon. Everything about your dungeon complex can be generated using this set of tables. Now let me read to you the final sample scenario in this rulebook. The scenario is called No Dungeon is Forever. As the town fell, a lone elven scout watched the carnage. There would be major blowback for the player character's actions. Realizing their folly in not intervening, the bravest elven heroes have now cut their way through the dungeon and into the sanctum. The game master speaks. The lancer, blood running down her face from the falling rock trap, heads down the stairway. She gestures for the eldritch warrior and weaponsmith to follow. In the sanctum, you are all still licking your wounds from the raid on the town and pretty distracted. The game master rolls 1 die of engagement and gets a failure. The game master speaks. Yeah, you have no idea the adventurers are here. What have you all been doing during the fight on the first level? Olrot, the orc brute, speaks.
I'm totally asleep with my head on the table, snoring loudly. My hair and clothes are still singed from that firebomb.
Crag, the kobold shaman, speaks.
I'm in my room sewing up the holes in my side from that pitchfork.
Slem, the Slissic shadow, speaks.
I'm probably drowning myself in alcohol. I only got 1 stress left, so I'm pretty much on the edge.
The game master speaks. The lancer enters the sanctum first and sees the orc snoring at the table. Knowing there's more, she gestures for her comrades to fan out and get ready. Slem, you drunkenly stumble into the room. Shake your head and see the Lancer with her weapon held high, standing over Olrot. Behind you on both sides of the door are the other two adventurers. Slem, the Slissic Shadow, speaks.
What the hell? I yell, waking up Olrot. Then I chuck this bottle of liquor I'm drinking at her. It's smash. I want to knock her weapon away.
The Game Master speaks. Ha, nice. This is dire and both you and Olrot are open to consequences. Slem rolls one die of smash and gets a mixed result. The Game Master speaks. Okay, you knock her lance out of her hands. So Olrot's fine, but you're going to end up bloodied here, Slem. Slem, the Slissic Shadow, speaks.
The bottle smacks it out of her hands, and I smile smugly, then suddenly feel a sharp pain. Looking down, I see a glowing sword sticking out of my belly. Of course, there were more behind me. I fall to the floor.
Olrot, the Orc Brute, speaks.
I jump awake, then roar as I see these trespassers in our sanctum. It's threatened. I'm trying to make this Lancer break and run.
The Game Master speaks. Roll it. Also, don't forget that you have shock to guts from the raid. Olrot rolls one die of threaten, that is 2 dice minus 1 die, and gets a mixed result. The Game Master speaks. That's her last heart. The rocks earlier almost took her out. She doesn't have any moves left either. Tell us what happens. Olrot, the Orc Brute, speaks.
She takes a few steps back, looks at her friends, and says, I'm so sorry, then runs back up the stairs. I turn to face the other two.
The Game Master speaks. When you turn, you see that the weaponsmith is holding your axe, admiring it. He says something in the light tongue which you can't understand, but the gist is, it's going to be fun killing you with this. Crag, the Kobold Shaman, speaks.
I hear all that roaring and come hobbling into the sanctum. The stitches rip out and blood starts leaking. I invoke, telling the roots to entangle these two. I have a couple of dark hearts, so I might as well use one.
The Game Master speaks. Tier 2, to get both of them. This is deadly, and don't forget your shock. Crag rolls 2 dice of invoke and gets a failure. Crag, the Kobold Shaman, speaks.
Ouch! The roots start moving, but the Eldritch Warrior is faster. The glowing daggers hovering around him turn and fly through the air at me. I guess this is it for all, Crag. My resistance roll here is going to suck.
Slem, the Slissic Shadow, speaks.
I'll resist for you. I still have a dark heart. From the ground, I use finesse to leg sweep the Eldritch Warrior and break his concentration.
Slem rolls 2 dice of finesse and gets a failure. Slem, the Slissic Shadow, speaks.
Ah, damn it. Sorry. And that stress makes me go feral. My dark impulse is vengeance, so start thinking of what I should do.
Crag, the Kobold Shaman, speaks.
Nah, it's cool. I have an awesome idea. The daggers strike true and I fall to my knees, blood pouring out of my mouth. I dig my hand into the soil and roots entwining around my fingers. I look at you two and grin, then just say, run! I still have a dark heart. This is my death knell. I'm going to cast a tier 3 spell here and bring the sanctum down.
Crag rolls 2 dice of invoke and gets a critical. And that concludes the sample scenario. Pretty exciting, huh? Now let me tell you what I think about this role-playing game. I think this is an awesome role-playing game when it comes to participate as the bad guys. If you were always curious as to how the other side experienced the adventures in fantasy role-playing games, this is it. This is not to the over-the-top extent as some other evil role-playing games like Dark Lord. This is more grounded on the experiences of the hardworking monster. That is, you can play as some pretty powerful species, such as the ones that I mentioned that are pretty much the equal of mind flayers, beholders, but you're still quite quite in touch when it comes to managing your dungeon. The rules are pretty simple to follow, although they lean more towards storytelling. So if you don't like that emphasis on giving priority to the narrative, then maybe you won't like this game too much, but if you do, you have more than enough to play an endless number of villainous campaigns throughout your entire role-playing game career. And remember, you are not limited to the monsters contained in this rulebook. They all serve as templates for you to come up with your monstrous species. So if you wanted to play as a giant, as a troll, as anything at all, you have all the tools needed here. So gameplay is quite basic. You are carrying out your actions and using your resources to perhaps retcon some things, depending on how you want the story to proceed. But as you can see from that last scenario, there can be some deaths if you are careless, or if luck simply isn't on your side. The ways that factions, events, and the clocks are managed, it also adds a lot of life to any sort of setting that you are running. And when it comes to your dungeon, you will surely experience great attachment to it. This is not just one of your bases, this is your main base of operation, your hideout, your beloved fortress. So as you are defending it from adventurers, as you are making expansions for your dungeon and discovering things both hostile and beneficial to your cause, the dungeon truly becomes another character in the story. And all of the tools concerning the tips, the advice for the game master, the explanation of the flow and cycle of play, the dungeon generator, many options, all sorts of features concerning sandboxes, the places that you can attack and raid. This is a very complete rulebook, one of the most complete rulebooks that you will place your hands on, at least when it comes to villainous campaigns. So overall, my highest recommendation for the Wicked Ones role-playing game. Thank you for watching my review, and thank you so much to those of you that have been supporting the channel by sending drive-thru RPG gift certificates. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.